Bippity boppity boo, what can Evan 30 do for you? We can talk about the Game Boy Advance SP. Man, I'm just really tired. Ugh. So, when the hell did this thing come out? Well, I know the original one came out in 2003. The Game Boy Advance SP, the original launch. The AGS 001 came out then. Going even further back, the original Game Boy Advance came out in 2001. But now jumping back ahead to 2000, was this thing 2004 or 5? Wait a minute. I might be a big fat liar because on the back of this it says 2002. So maybe I conspire that it came out in Japan in 02, or maybe it just came out in 02. I swear it was 03, but no. I don't want to spread too much misinformation, I guess, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I know the AGS 101, which is the model I have here. This is the model with a really, really bright IPS screen, and it's a pretty nifty model is what I call it. I want to say this was 2005. I actually think that this, specifically the 101, might have come out after the DS. And the DS came out in 2004. So, yeah. So what is actually special about the Game Boy Advance SP? Well, honestly, here's what it looks like. The screen is just really, really bright. And when playing, your Game Boy Advance games, honestly, for a handheld option, obviously you can mod your systems, do this and that, but in terms of the actual, official Nintendo releases for a means to play your Game Boy games on the go, it can be argued which option is the best, but I think a lot of the fans can agree that the strongest option may be the Game Boy Advance SP AGS 101. Ugh, that's so many words. But yeah, nowadays these things are really expensive, but back in the day, I managed to snag one for like $50, which is not bad. But yeah, nowadays it's gonna run you some money. But you know what? I'm gonna do something really fast. I'm gonna grab my Game Boy Advance, the original one, to kind of do a little comparison. And I believe that comparison is the thief of joy. So it doesn't really bring me happiness to be comparing, but to the viewer, these two machines are pretty much the same thing except what kind of screen they're running and how it's powered. This thing is powered by batteries, 2 AA's, and it'll last you pretty long. I mean, overall great system, but yeah, I got this model. I got this Game Boy Advance when I think I was 10 or 11 when I got this thing, and I broke the battery cover. Everything else of my original purchase is intact. I've even retained the box and whatnot. And, when I originally cracked the seal, everything that comes with it is still here, except the battery. I'm so tired. I don't know what I'm talking about. Whatever. I'll be right back. We're back in a flash. I think that I haven't used this one in a while because I pretty much just play either on the SP or on a Game Boy player on the GameCube, which is a means to play Game Boy games through your GameCube on the big screen. And that's pretty cool. I like using that, but more or less I use the Advance a lot. Oh, this thing's switch was on. Interesting. Let me show you the viewer. I'm sure a lot of you already know this. This is not like some hidden knowledge, but especially to people who grew up with this thing, I would say. This is what a Game Boy Advance SP looks like when you turn it on. Nice and bright. This is what a Game Boy Advance original release looks like when you turn it on. Can you see it? Probably not. There was no backlight. There was no lighting on the screen. And That was disgusting. I'm sorry. There was no screen, or there was a screen. What? There was no. I'm just tweaking today. I really am. I've been losing it. Long day. Woke up early. Was doing stuff all day. Didn't really get home until a bit later on, and you know, the repercussions of that such a day are now kicking me in the ass. But about the Game Boy Advance, something or other. The screen has no lighting on it. There's just no lighting, sort of like a calculator. So you basically, the only way you get lighting is if you flick a light on and sort of aim it at you, so maybe you can see the screen a little bit better, or B, you know, you go outside and let the sunlight, the rays of Jesus's rays of sunshine, reflect down on your Game Boy Advance as the power of the Holy Spirit fuels your gameplay. But I'm kind of just kidding here. I remember originally getting this thing, and I was super confused. I'm like, you know, where's the lighting, man? Where's the you know, I can't really see anything. And I remember going outside and being like, man, this, you know, not unappreciative, because I still think it was a pretty cool, nifty machine. And I got Super Mario Advance with it, which is Mario Bros. 2, a port of Mario Bros. 2 on the Game Boy Advance. But I was just very confused. I was thinking, you know, what's the deal with this thing, man? There's no lighting, you know. But I don't want to be ungrateful, because it is really cool to, you know, especially now that these prices are flying. It's kind of cool to know that I was able to, you know, be one of the people who could buy a Game Boy Advance sealed and, you know, rock with it, open it up, get Mario Advance. Later on, you know, I got some other stuff, but it's just really cool to have started off. Well, actually, I didn't start off with the Game Boy Advance, but it was cool to know. It was just cool to, like, experience that, you know, getting a sealed one. Pretty nifty overall. But not to complain. I will say, though, I don't like necessarily comparing. But I think what I'm going to do is I want to show some gameplay. And I'm not super familiar with taking gameplay footage of a handheld. This is my case of Game Boy games. It's a PlayStation case. A little confusing. But I think what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take two Pokemons, which these are, you know, different versions, but they're a similar game. Emerald came out later. People prefer Emerald in general to, you know, Ruby and Sapphire overall. But don't want to discredit what this thing does. You know, they're all good games. Let me flip the camera. All right. This angle is a little bit shameless, I'm not gonna lie, but this is quite frankly my only means. So let's turn on the one on my left here. Look at that big bright screen. Oh man, that is nice. Oh baby, that is nice. And then, not to necessarily, oh yeah, look. That's so stupid. I mean, my 5, or my, you know, an older man, you know. Well, we're rocking with this. I'm going to try to reflect the lighting a little bit better here. Maybe let's get some more direct lighting to the one on the right here. I'm literally just glaring the light at it. And this is what happens if I take the light away from it. You can barely see it. But if I aim the light at it, you can sort of see what's going on. Again, these days I would definitely prefer getting a Game Boy Advance SP. But if you're on a huge budget, maybe you're an outdoors person, the Advance wouldn't be so bad. Especially if you're going outside a lot. Save your money. Only thing is battery power. Maybe get some rechargeable batteries. But this thing does one thing, two things pretty right. It's extremely comfortable in your hand. This is a little bit less comfortable to play with than something like this. This is very, very comfortable. And it just looks very nice in general. And the Game Boy Advance, very comfortable. Also, what were they actually thinking? Look at this. Aux port for, headphones. Nice. Glad you included that. Let's look for one on the Game Boy Advance SP. That's all, folks. There's none. I mean, what were they thinking, man? That's just... whatever. The internal battery. Oh, yeah, I'm too lazy to replace my battery. I bought this thing for way too much money, and I just didn't even replace the battery, because I am lazy. That's... Yeah, the one... Batteries run dry in this one, too. I haven't played Ruby in a while. But let's look at the teams on both of these, man. I did a video on Emerald last time, so I think you've already seen the Emerald team, but I might as well show it again. But this was my Ruby team. You've got... Oh, this lighting is horrible. Holy... Wow. Holy Jesus. This lighting is awful. You've got Sceptile, Crobat, Aggron. I used him again. Hariyama, Azumarill, and Macargo. This guy is a freaking... He looks pretty deranged. What's going on, man? Ooh. But, yeah. And then, guys, this was my Pokemon Emerald team. Now, I don't think you've ever seen this one before, but if you watch the previous upload, you will see that I show my team. And overall, it is pretty cool stuff, guys. Yeah. And I just beat this one. And I have beaten this one before in the past. Whoa. Crazy stuff. What's wrong with me? You know what? These are getting turned off. I need to get a life, man. Okay. No more Game Boys. If you are in the market for a great backlog of games, I would get one of the Game Boy Advances because they can play Game Boy Color and original Game Boy games. So it's 3 library. Well, the Game Boy, I was about to flip off the camera because I was going to put down the 2 fingers and I was going to accidentally flip off the camera. So I'm not gonna, but the Game Boy Advance is a great library. The original Game Boy is a great library. The Game Boy Color's library, shorter, but it's still good. So you've kind of got a lot of different yields, a lot of different games to choose from. And yeah. Get a Game Boy Advance, one of them, probably the SP, but it's too expensive, so I don't blame you if you can't cop it. But actually, you should emulate all of your games because, well, jokes aside, if you want to emulate, that's fine. But listen, there is something very charming and very special about holding the actual original system in your hand with the original game and just playing it the original way. I get it, though, it's expensive. If you can't do it, I can't blame you. Experience these games however you want to, especially because Nintendo doesn't really give us a option to get a lot of these games without... It's like, a lot of these games are too expensive, and then they don't really give us any fair official means to play them without some dumb subscription. So we're kind of left either spending egregious amounts of money to play them or just emulating. So I guess I can't blame people for emulating, but... actually, why do you have a game collection? You should just emulate all of your games. I'm done. I'm splitting for the day. All right. Peace out.